Do not only study in med school, or any other university degree for that matter, and I'm about to tell you why. Hello, my name is Cameron if you are new here, and I have just completed my third year of medical school as a foreign student in Hungary. That feels really good to say. An immense sense of pride does kick in, and it almost makes it easier to block out the negatives and just focus on the positives of the journey. With that said, I feel that it is important in these moments to take a pause and reflect back on some of the hard times and acknowledge the struggles that I went through. This usually helps me to gain clarity on the lessons that I learned during those experiences. I have been humbled a fair few times, but nothing sticks out more than the exam period of my second semester in first year. This semester happened to be during the height of the COVID pandemic, which meant online classes, strict outdoor curfews, and isolation. I very rarely left my apartment and I spent most of my time studying. The logical thought pattern that then follows that is, I'm sure that must have been difficult, but at least you were putting the work in so that you could do well in your exams. But the outcome aggressively disproved this thought process. I started off on a good note by passing Histology 1 in the first week of the exam period, but then it all started falling apart. I went on to fail Anatomy 1 on my A chance, which required me to reshuffle my entire original exam schedule in order to allow for a retake. I went in for my B chance 1 week later, and thankfully I managed to pass by the skin of my teeth, but it didn't end there. By this point I was burnt out beyond explanation, and I still needed to get through Molecular Cell Biology 2, Biophysics 2, and Introduction to Biochemistry. And these all needed to be completed in the last 4 weeks of the exam period. I was crawling my way through until finally I had one left, Introduction to Biochemistry. I failed. This also happened to be in the 6th week of the exam period, which meant that I only had one opportunity left in the 7th and final week of the exam period to try and pass on my B chance. I failed again. It was one of the worst days of my life, and I remember it so clearly because the way it worked is it was a written exam. We went in for that written exam, and afterwards, maybe 2 or 3 hours later, you would receive a message from your seminar teacher stating if you had passed or if you had failed. And I had obviously received the message the first time round on my A chance, basically stating, "Hello Cameron Shaw, I am really sorry to inform you that unfortunately you have failed this exam." And I thought, okay, I'm sorry. I even replied to the teacher and said, "Thank you for letting me know." And B chance came around. I was traveling to Budapest on that day to go and pick up my passport at the South African embassy. And I was sitting on the train, waiting anxiously for this message to come through because I needed to pass as it was my last opportunity within that exam period. And to make matters worse, I was sitting on the train, and the particular train I was on did not have a charging port for my phone. And my phone was starting to die. It was on about 20% because I just could not let it go. I kept refreshing and refreshing to try and wait for that message. This left me in a very sticky situation because when my train arrived in Budapest, I would need my phone to be able to order a Bolt to get me to the South African embassy to get my passport. And even more than that, I would need to order a Bolt as well from there to get back to the train station so that I could get back home. And if you thought that that was it, to make matters even worse, I forgot to mention that my train was actually delayed because there was an issue with the cart. And that meant that I was about an hour or an hour and a half behind schedule. And by the time I arrived in Budapest, it was going to be about an hour past the closing time of the embassy. So I had to try and call them as well on the train and basically ask them and apologize profusely if they could stay open for an extra hour. And they luckily agreed, but the issue I was having was after that phone call, I thought, well, what if I don't have enough battery to order the Bolt and they're waiting for me and I can't even get there? Or what if I get the Bolt there but then end up being stranded and can't get back? It was a whole stressful procedure. And then I remember maybe 30 minutes from my destination, from Budapest, I received the message from my teacher. "Hello Cameron Shaw, I am so sorry to inform you, but unfortunately you have failed again." My head was so hot in that situation. I didn't even reply to her message. I just read it and I was absolutely furious. Luckily in the end I managed to get the passport and I could get home afterwards, which I guess is a small plus. But even though I got home and I was able to get my passport, I was in the situation where I was not able to complete all the exams I needed to complete within the designated exam period. And this meant that I was relying on one last chance. We have a grace period, which is a 1 week slot in the summer just before the new semester starts for the new year. And I would then have the opportunity and the last opportunity to try and pass this exam on my C chance. Either I pass and I continue with my medical degree on the correct track, or I fail and I end up adding an entire extra year to my medical degree. My summer holiday then started and I had summer practice for 3 weeks first at the hospital. So I just kind of got through that and didn't want to study because I was really burnt out. And I then went home, spent about a month not even thinking about it, trying to get my head completely out of the exam study frame of mind. And then that really helped to refresh me, gave me a little bit of energy for one last push to study for this exam one last time for about 2 weeks before that week grace period. Fast forward a little bit and I receive a message which finally states, "Congratulations, Cameron, you have been awarded with a 3, I think it was, I've forgotten, but I'm pretty sure it was. Main point being, you have passed." So a massive weight came off of my shoulders. I was incredibly relieved. Now, to link back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, I learned a great lesson. I don't want to brag, but this next statement is simply needed to emphasize my point. Other than that semester, I have only ever failed a test or exam once. And that actually happened in this semester just gone by, with microbiology 2 being the culprit. In that second semester or first year, I did not have any work-life balance. I only studied. Granted, it was for reasons out of my control, but I'm hoping that everyone watching this who will have or does have a choice whilst in university to either overstudy or work towards achieving a balance, that you go with the latter. The isolation I experienced led to severe depression, unhealthy eating habits, no exercise, and poor academic performance as a result. You cannot expect yourself to perform when you have neglected your mental and physical health. It is easy to get caught up in some of the propaganda out there that medical students need to study their lives away in order to succeed, but that simply is not the case. I actively work to suppress the feelings of guilt that I get when I am not studying, because it can happen often, especially when you're dealing with subjects that are so big where you cannot comprehend how you can possibly learn all of it. You are far more likely to succeed if you space out your studying throughout the semester, with breaks and fun with friends being scheduled in, than you are by procrastinating and then cramming for hours on end towards the back end of the semester. Trust me, this comes from experience. Of course, as you get closer to each exam, the studying time needs to increase. But if you gave yourself the correct foundation during the semester, then you can afford to still take breaks between studying and avoid complete isolation. Hopefully this video could be of some help. I will be making a video at some point outlining the exams that I had in the first year, giving you some basic information, some tips and some advice, so look out for that. And if you would like me to expand a little bit more on the struggles that I experienced during that dreaded semester, then let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you on the next one. Cheers!